separate the two.
Hello, everyone. And welcome to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Planning Commission meeting, work session on May 2nd, 2022. Thank you very much for joining us. We are in a hybrid meeting today, so we will be trying to manage all of the moving parts of that. Thank you to staff that's assisting. I'm Philip Gussman. I will be leading the meeting, though I believe our chair, well, let me run through the introductions real quick, and then I believe our chairwoman has a couple of comments as well. Oh, wait, let me finish reading the proper spot. Welcome to the May 2nd Planning Commission virtual work session. Today's meeting is being streamed online in accordance with the state's electronic meeting statute. The requirements of notice, access, and minutes are being met through electronic means, and the public and the media can watch this meeting live on the Planning, Design, and Development Department's YouTube page. Participants are muted to minimize interruptions. Please do not unmute unless you are speaking. To make a motion, please state your name before making a first or second motion. All votes will be done by roll call. Please respond when your name is called. And I've called the meeting to order, so let's jump into introductions. Like I said, I'm Philip Gussman, Vice Chair of the Planning Commission, and I will offer to have our chairwoman jump in and introduce herself if she's on.
I am here. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Kiba Samuel, Chair of the Planning Commission. Yeah, I'll do after introductions. Thanks, Phil.
Excellent. And then I'll move around the table in the room here.
Andrew Blumenthal, Planning Commission.
Douglas Walton, Planning Commission.
And then if I can get Chirinos,
Pastor Chirinos, Planning Commission.
Ham,
John Ham, Planning Commission.
McMillan,
Elizabeth McMillan, Planning Commission.
Gaston,
Melissa Gaston, Planning Commission.
Barbie,
Erin Barbie, Planning Commission.
Kelly,
Pete Kelly, Planning Commission.
Harvey,
RJ Harvey, Planning Commission.
Russell.
Will Russell, Planning Commission.
Is there anyone I'm missing?
Courtney Rhodes, Planning Commission.
There you are. Thank you. I saw a number didn't line up right. Excellent. If we can have staff that's here in the room.
Candace Rory, Planning Staff.
Allison Craig, Interim Planning Director.
Siobhan Davis, Planning Staff.
Alicia Osborne, Planning Staff.
Laura Harmon, Planning Staff.
Excellent. Welcome. And do we have any staff online?
Sandra Montgomery, Planning Staff.
Mariah Wozniak, Planning Staff.
Alan Goodwin, Planning Staff.
Kevin May, Planning Staff.
Andrew Russell, Planning Staff.
Yolanda Jones, Planning Staff.
Excellent. Anyone else that I didn't mention? Thank you. Well, before we jump into minutes and everything, I know Kiba's on a tight schedule, so I know she had an opening comment she wanted to make before we kick into this meeting's agenda. Kiba, are you ready to go?
Yeah, it actually can fit kind of in. I have a can't miss transaction that's not going to be over until about 4:30 today. So I'm sorry that I'll be in and out. I'll have my my iPad still logged into the meeting, but I won't be able to fully participate. I didn't want to miss it completely. So I just wanted to have an opportunity to speak, but we can move through the agenda as normal with the approval of the minutes. If we have a motion, any questions or comments?
If there are no comments, this is Commissioner Barbie. I'll make a motion to approve the April 4th work session minutes.
Commissioner Walton, I'll second that motion.
Motion by Barbie, second by Walton. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go through a roll call vote. Blumenthal.
Aye.
Chirinos.
Aye.
Gaston.
Aye.
Ham.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Oh,
Kelly,
Aye.
McMillan,
Aye.
Rhodes,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Walton,
Aye.
Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair.
I am also an aye.
And I believe Commissioner Spencer is not with us today, and the chair votes aye. That passes unanimous 13-0. Thank you so very much. So as we jump into new business, we established last month the nominating committee, and that consisted of Commissioners Ham, McMillan, and Spencer. And before we hear from the nominating committee, I will remind that nominations can be made from the floor if there are any. So there's an opportunity in a window now if anyone wants to make a nomination from the floor.
This is Commissioner Chirinos.
The floor-
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I apologize. I have not seen the slate of nominations yet. So can we see that so we can see who is nominated? And then we can make a nomination? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I missed.
So the nominating committee, they will make their announcement a little bit later for a recommendation, but anyone can be nominated from the floor as well for consideration.
Okay. Well, then could I renominate the chair as to be chair in the next round?
You said renominate the chair to be chair again.
Meaning you to be a chair. I mean, like, I'm not exactly sure how the process goes, but.
So you're making a nomination from the floor to nominate Kiba Samuel, I think is what I understand, for chair.
Correct. I wanted to ask that before in terms of process. Yes, I would like to nominate Kiba Samuel as a chair, or to repeat as chair.
Well, thank you. Any additional nominations from the floor? The floor is still open. Anything in the room? I don't think I have any hands raised. Going once. Going twice. Nothing in the room, Phil? I'm not missing anything?
Nope, we have no hands here.
Okay. So we have one nomination from the floor. I feel weird announcing this, but it's for Kiba Samuel as chair of the commission for 2023. And we will now hear from, I believe, McMillan. You're speaking on behalf of the nominating committee, yes?
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna push it to the end of the meeting, but yes, we're ready to kind of announce our recommendations from the nominating committee. As you mentioned, it was Sam Spencer, John Hamm, and I were asked to do the nominations for this fiscal year. Thanks so much for asking us to participate, and thanks to everyone that submitted nominations. We appreciate all the effort that went into putting those together, and we have a really impressive group of members on the commission, and we thank you for putting those together. We did agree to nominate Kiba Samuel as chair and Phil Gussman as vice chair for the fiscal year 23. We appreciate, like I say, everybody else that participated, and encourage everyone to continue to serve either as vice chairs of the selective committees, and to try again next year as well. But that was kind of our recommendation from the nominating committee.
Thank you, Commissioner McMillan. Mr. Vice Chair, would you like to speak on that subject?
Certainly, I'd be more than happy to. Thank you though for the offer. And I'm glad someone else was able to nominate you because I would have if they hadn't. Um, I know Keeban and I have worked hard together for these past 5 years now almost, and we're looking forward to helping carry through some of the very first ideas that we were presented with on the Planning Commission with the passing of the UDO, hopefully, expectedly in the next few months, and helping drive the implementation of that going forward. And I'm honored and looking forward to doing this work that we have to get done.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. And I too, I thank you for the nominating committee for the work and time that you guys invested in vetting the nominees and for making the recommendation. I humbly accept the nomination and look forward to earning the vote of my fellow commission members to continue the work, as Phil said, to get the UDO over the hump, to get into implementation and area planning. We will be making some very difficult decisions as we go to make committee changes here soon. Some committee changes might be necessary a little bit earlier. Some committee changes will happen a little bit later, just because of timing. And so we'll talk through that a little bit more as we go into our June meeting. And again, I look forward to earning everyone's vote on the commission, look forward to continuing to partner. And I'm looking forward to listening into the parts of this meeting that I can on the UDO discussion, because I really do want to hear what the discussion is about. Mr. Vice Chair, I will need to turn this meeting back over to you now, as I'm being, people are in front of my door window here. So I'm going to turn my camera off, mute, but I'll try to be as present as possible during this discussion. So I will chat with you all soon. And Mr. Vice Chair, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, and feel free to let us jump in whenever you need to or are available. Excellent. All right, so can we get we already have the minutes approved, so we get to jump into the main purpose of our conversation here today, which is the recommendations that we're going to push forward to the Planning Committee for inclusion or recommendation to be included in the UDO draft as it stands before us. We have all of our leadership on the UDO here in the room or online, ready to potentially be able to help us address some things we suspect are already well on their radar and maybe being considered. But this is our opportunity as a body to push forward good ideas and changes or amendments or et cetera to the plan as we see it. This is by no means the only opportunity all of us will have, though we should really make these suggestions early so that the staff has a chance to respond. I will jump in and kick off with, so the way this will work, I'll read through, introduce each of the comments, the recommended changes, and then I will ask the submitter to maybe give us a minute or a couple of minutes on it, explaining the justification they were thinking and the logic behind it. And then we will have, we will give staff, Laura is here in the room, we'll give staff an opportunity to address if it has perhaps already been considered or how the staff is considering it. And then we'll have an opportunity to debate each as we see fit for inclusion. Then we'll draw to the end of that debate. We will push for a vote on each of the items on whether or not it will be pushed forward for planning committees slate to go to the staff before the next draft comes out. So after explaining the process, I'll jump in. The first one we did have a number of other items were suggested for this meeting. Some of them were removed because those parts of the UDO was recently changed. For example, the short-term rental housing part was taken out of the UDO. And so we had a number of comments about that we don't have to consider today. But I'll jump in and Will, can you kick us off with your quadruplex point?
Absolutely. Thanks, Vice Chair Gusman. So, commending planning staff, because this is a heavy lift when you're trying to redo a 30-year-old zoning ordinance and bring it into the 21st century. But in reading the UDO and in the first draft, there is a provision that says that you can't build a quadruplex unless two things happen. One, it has to be on a corner lot. The other being that there has to be an affordable unit in order to build a quadruplex. So again, understanding the complexities of planning, this is one of those situations where the thought behind it is good, but the reality meets the road. It doesn't really work as well as you would intend. And the reason I say that is because if you're going to build a quadplex, you're going to have a set amount of rent. And if you're going to mandate that one of those units has to be affordable, then you're reducing the rent on one unit, which means the other 3 units have to have the rents go up in order to cover the cost. And just so you know, I did do the math on these, and I'll be happy to share that with anybody that wants to see it. But what I did is I took a market in East Charlotte, and the reason I use that market is because there are several neighborhoods in which there are smaller houses on larger lots that could easily accommodate a quadplex. So if you think about the median rent in that area, it's about $1,200 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. Thereabout, you can kind of haggle over the numbers. But if I were to build a quadplex in East Charlotte, and in order to make my math work, and what that means is I have more dollars coming in than I have going out. In order just to get above breaking even, I would have to have all 4 of my units run about $1,375 a unit in order to cover my mortgage, cover maintenance, and then to have enough cash flow to be a viable project. When I go through and I add the affordability component of that, I took a baseline of 60% AMI. And in order to break even, get my cash flow working, in order to make the project viable, the other 3 units, the rents have to go up to about $1,430 each, with the remaining unit being at about $1,156. So we can see right there that we're pushing up the rents on the other 3 units in order to accommodate an affordable unit, when quite honestly, a quadplex and even a duplex are affordable projects by nature. So this is one of those situations where I think we need to do a little bit of math and look through this and really kind of think through how we're going to increase housing, because that's the only way you're going to get the affordability. And I'll shut up now.
Laura, want to jump in?
Thank you. This provision is for the neighborhood 1 zoning districts, and I'll be brief on this. It is in policy 2.2 of the comprehensive plan, and so we just carried that forward in the UDO. That was the thinking, because basically said triplexes everywhere, quadruplexes on arterials, if you did something above and beyond, and affordable housing was one of the options for doing that.
So staff is adhering to the already passed comp plan, kind of specifically on this one. Do we have any comments from any of the other commissioners? Any thoughts? And then I'll send it back to Will just to make sure we.
Can I add one quick thing, Laura? So can you talk
Go right ahead,
about
Allison.
where quadruplexes in the UDO as proposed are allowed? In what zoning districts?
Sure, and I may need a little help from someone online that has the ordinance open. It is allowed in the N1 districts, and it is allowed in the N2 districts as well. I think there are someone, maybe if Kevin or Alan's available. We do have limitations that you have to be, I know if you're in N23, which is the most intense district, I believe you have to be in a multiple dwelling type development. So you can't simply have quadruplexes, because we think by the time you're at N2, neighborhood 2C, you're really looking at urban development. So highly urban, highly dense development. Quadruplexes don't always meet that in that setting. And I don't know if either of you guys can maybe correct me or provide some more information. Welcome back.
This is
Yeah, Laura, I'm sorry, Kevin, I've got the use table unless you also.
Go ahead,
have-
sir. No, it's fine. I defer to you.
Okay, yes, I think you're right, Laura. Quadruplexes are allowed in the N1A through N1E zoning districts with prescribed conditions, and mainly the prescribed conditions are that they have to be on an arterial street, and one of the units has to be affordable for 80% AMI. Quadruplexes are allowed by right in the N1F, in the N2A districts, and then in the N2B, again, there's a prescribed condition, and I think you're accurately describing it. They are not allowed in the N2C district, which is more of a higher density multifamily type of district.
Douglas, I know has a comment.
I have a question about form and not having my 608 pages here in front of me. What is a quadruplex in terms of the physical form? If I have, and the thing that came to mind the question was, if I have 4 townhouses right beside each other, are they a quadruplex?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
It could be that. It could be.
There's the
2 over
traditional 2 over
2.
2, yeah.
That anything that has 4 units attached on a single lot would be a quadruplex.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any hands up online? I'll send it back to Will. Will, oh, there we go. Peter, go right ahead.
Commissioner Kelly, I tend to agree with Commissioner Russell, notwithstanding the fact that this was in the original draft or original approved 2040 plan. We've said all along that that's a living and breathing document, and as we understood the implications of it, that it would be subject to discussion and revision. And I think Will's raising a good point of something that should be raised and discussed.
Any other hands? Let me make my comment, I guess, before I let Will wrap it up before we go to vote. I think this is a really good point, and it was one of the things I saw adjust in the comp plan that I would rather see more quads, even if we don't always get affordable housing built into it. I certainly would love to see a bonus plan or structure or something, and not to just overcomplicate code or anything. I think the quads help provide that diversity of housing in large lot developments and whatnot that really does help lower that cost of housing in diverse neighborhoods or in great diverse neighborhoods. Chairwoman Samuel.
Thank you. Just wanted to comment. I apologize, please, if this has already been addressed, but if we remove it here, where are you going to place it? Where does it get replaced? What's the suggestion for if we're taking affordability away from here? And I understand about the expenses. Again, Will, you and I talked at great length on last week about a topic similar to this, and we did not quite agree, or at least saw 2 different ways that could play out in terms of expenses, long haul versus short haul. But if we take out the affordability requirement here, where do we place it? Because I'm not sure if I align with removing affordability from here without replacing it somewhere else. Like what's going to, you said, I think I heard you say that duplexes are affordable by nature. That's always that, just like multifamily, that's going to be market driven. So I'm not necessarily in complete agreement. I do understand that changes, requiring that on a quad changes maybe your unit mix expense, your rent matrix. But I just have some hesitation there.
All right,
Thank
Chair.
you. Keep-
Oh, go ahead.
Will, go ahead.
No, thank you, Chairwoman. Well, yes, and I did say that, duplexes and by extent quadplexes are affordable by nature, mainly because those are the type of products that can be undertaken by an existing homeowner. Like, you don't have to be a developer. You don't have to go through Crosland or some big developer in order to get this done. And quite frankly, a developer of any size is probably not going to do this. So you really cut down on that overhead. And of course, it's going to be market driven, because if you do a quadplex in South Park, it's going to be a different cost than University, or a different cost than East Charlotte or West Charlotte, right? It is going to be sub-market driven. But for all intent and purposes, the construction of a quadplex is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of doing a single family home of about, if you take about 1,000 square foot per unit, you're talking about a 4,000 square foot structure. And if you had a 4,000 square foot single family home, the cost is going to be the same. The difference is you're going to have your mortgage split 4 ways instead of having your mortgage split 1 way. So the other part of that is now you have an ability to house more families than you would on a single family lot. And then you put some downward pressure on affordability in the city. Right now, the rents are upwards of $1,600, pushing $1,700 on average. And if you look at some of especially if you're talking about a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, I mean, that's a mortgage at this point. A 2-bedroom in Charlotte is over $2,000 a month. And we're talking about a product right here where I'm getting 4 units for about $1,400 a month, $1,375 a month. So I think that if we want to talk about affordability, we got to start putting numbers to it. We can't just say, well, we're going to put a policy in to make things affordable if we don't understand the product or how it gets built or it gets financed.
I agree there. That's why I'm wondering if I understand that there's probably it sounds like the entire UDO team might be with us. Is there anyone that can speak to what was found in the economic or the impact analysis to this regard? Is there any data that we can refer to that kind of measured or can enlighten this point?
So not yet. We just got the report late on Friday, and so haven't had a chance to really dissect that with the consultant. So I don't have any feedback today, but certainly can come back to the group once we have another conversation with them.
Okay, thank you for that, Allison. I think that was Allison. Okay, I'm hopping back out now. I'm in and out. I'm trying to tune in, guys. So thank you so much for bearing with me. And I hope my comments were at least understood, but please allow the conversation to flow. And doing a time check. We're about 12:35-ish. Okay, let's keep moving.
All right, I've got Peter and then Douglas.
I think Will's point that the type of housing we're talking about, quadruplex, are typically only going to be built in the neighborhoods that are closer to affordability by definition. The market just doesn't build a quad in South Park. So we have to look at this as where this is likely to be built, what type of neighborhood it is, how close that is to affordability, and what that does to those around it. I think his point is valid. And I think it's a subtlety of the economics that we are glossing over. Trying to achieve affordability might be better having the housing trust funds using this as another opportunity for investment and providing some subsidy to the quad so all 4 of them become affordable. That is another alternative, as another way to achieve the same outcome, or actually a better outcome, while still delivering product. Thank you.
And I'll add one more thing. I did run the numbers. So again, if anybody wants to see my calculations, I'll be happy to send that to them, and I welcome any feedback.
The one point I wanted to make, Will, and I think it is implicit in what you're saying, is quadruplexes create a more viable unit. When you look at it from a product standpoint, you want to say, is this viable in the marketplace? And if you have potentially 4 units that are always being providing you with income, as opposed to a single family or a duplex, you have a more viable product. And in order for us to have more housing products in the city, we need to create opportunities that have a higher viability. And by creating quadruplexes without this constraint of having an affordable component, we have higher viability. And therefore, the risk is reduced by those folks who are taking on the burden of developing these products. And as Will said, you know what? Maybe I won't be on the planning commission forever, and I could possibly turn my house into a quadruplex, right? And so if I were going to do that, I think there are probably a lot of people who are salivating over the opportunity to do anything on a single family lot now, and they would be those small developers. And so I think to enhance that viability would be a very strong point we should take into consideration.
Very well. Commissioner Gaston.
Hi, thank you. I understand your position, Will, regarding the affordability requirement, but I do think that it needs to be kept in the requirements. I know that a lot of this is going to happen in the areas in that crescent instead of the wedge, but there's prime example on Kings Boulevard where there are Kings Drive where they're building, and they look like townhouses, but they're considered quads or duplexes or duets is the new name for a duplex. And I think that people will take advantage of that and do build items that are not affordable. So I think that it needs to remain in there because there needs to be some affordability somewhere. I know you can't restrict it to certain areas, but I think that affordability is something that's very important in the city of Charlotte. We're losing it every day. And to say, well, this will only happen in the areas currently where the land is cheaper or whatever the situation, eventually that's not going to be the case. So my opinion, I think if we're removing it, like Commissioner Samuel said, if we're moving it from somewhere, it needs to be placed somewhere else in there so that it's not detrimental. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gaston. Excellent point. I'll just step out of my plan of pushing to a vote and just ask staff, do we think that there is room to find other opportunities to, and I know this is we're not trying to come up with new ideas, that affordability element in association with quads with some additional flexibility, or is there much wiggle room or ideas that we could come up with? And again, I know we don't want to rewrite from the beginning here.
So Laura, I may need some help on just even the density bonus and how that might be applied. I mean, I'd say across the board, Laura and I have been working with Housing and Neighborhood Services on a number of different affordability, like waivers or flexibility items that aren't in there now that we could potentially add. It's not specific to quads unless the bonus helps with that. Okay.
Probably because the bonus is usually height related.
Right.
So
I just didn't know the zoning category moving up. So, right. So, I mean, we are working on having a stronger toolbox for affordable housing across the board, but I'm not something specific for quadruplexes that I can think of at this point.
Excellent. All right, I'll entertain a motion that we include this item in our slate to recommend to the planning committee, if anyone would like to make one.
This is Commissioner Blumenthal. I'm happy to make a motion to include it.
Thanks.
Commissioner Welton, I'll second.
Motioned by Blumenthal, seconded by Welton, and I will run the roll call.
Just one more point, sorry, Mr. Vice Chair. I just want to add that this is exactly the intent of this discussion. So I'm looking forward to more lively points as we kind of move through these. And at minimum, getting this particular point or this item to planning committee at minimum gets us to a point where we can further flesh out what's in the impact analysis report and just kind of move that thought process forward. So thank you, everybody, for participating, and keep moving.
While you're here, can I get your vote, Kiva?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Blumenthal,
Yes.
Commissioner Torinos,
Yes.
Commissioner Ham,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes. Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
Gaston,
Yes.
Barbie,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
and Rhodes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Let's jump into the next one. Oh, look, it's mine. No, I'm kidding. The transition between immediately adjacent N1 and non-residential place types. I do think, and we've discussed from the very early day, my early days on the Planning Commission, what this transition is going to look like when we set single family right next to the more densifying areas. And it's something we're going to do. It's something we've dealt with in the past. And I guess it's not so much, I know the way my comment reads, that I'm saying for a return to the previous norm. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't require a exact return to the old way we did it, but I do think that providing, and specifically, I guess, I just skipped over what we're specifically talking about is as we build a neighborhood center or something, a place type that's more commercially oriented, is adjacent to N1. We know it's going to happen. We know it's an area that we sometimes see conflicts. One of the things for years now, we've kind of been able to, the communities, the neighborhoods have been able to rely on is that we're going to meet in backyards most often. And those backyards are going to step back a little bit. The commercial space is going to step back a little bit more from the property line, providing a little bit of a 1-to-1 ratio of, I know I keep wanting to call it glide slope, but you had another term. What was it? Height plane. Thank you. That's it. Height plane. So that the visual element or the visual obstruction of a building wouldn't be quite so onerous immediately adjacent to the single family. We have numbers in there now that I think aren't bad. I'd like to think that they would be acceptable and equitable to the development community. I would even entertain adjusting those potentially. But I do think it's an element that many of our neighborhoods and communities have looked to as the way that transition, that they're somewhat protected in that transition. Laura.
It's a really interesting topic. We have been hearing from folks through the comment portal about a desire to adjust this. And we'll be talking to council on Thursday about it. The one thing to keep in mind is it can have impacts economically on a project. And so you could be, on the projects that we have tested, you could be removing some of the development potential on those projects. And that could have an impact on the viability of those projects. And that's where we kind of are trying to find that balance and really look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. And my other question is, you're saying non-residential place types. What about residential projects that are going to be taller? Is that?
Yeah, I'm more saying that any of those neighborhood centers and things, which can also have residential in them.
Or neighborhood 2, the higher, I mean, the N2C district has fairly high.
Could get up to 65-ish.
Can get higher than that.
With bonuses and stuff. Yeah, true.
So, and just to clarify, what we have in the ordinance right now is if you are next to an N1 place type, then, and in the N1 place type, the housing is either capped at 40 or 48 feet. And what we have is a buffer under our current terminology, landscape yard under the UDO terminology. And then a maximum height of 65 feet or the maximum of your district, whichever is lower, for 200 feet. And after that, you can go to the height of your district. So that's really what we're comparing. It is maybe something different from that 65 feet, but just everyone wanted to make sure everyone knows we do start at 40 and in some districts 48 feet.
Very good point. Very fair. Any comments? Hands up? This might be the quickest one. Oh, we have one. Will.
Question. So does this take into account tree buffers? Because I've seen there's actually a project in my close to my neighborhood where there's going to be a single family house, and there's a tree buffer between that and a condo unit that'll be roughly right about 50 some odd feet tall. But the tree buffer between it hides it to some degree. Now you can still read that there's a building back there, but you can't see all of it. So I'm wondering if the tree buffer or some other buffer has been considered for this situation.
The draft UDO does have a landscape yard, which is our new term for buffers and zoning requirement in these circumstances, yes.
And does that operate any differently than open space? Just to be.
Open space doesn't have to be planted, and so it's probably not going to provide the screening or the transition, the separation that a buffer would, or landscape yard.
So buffer, smaller amount of buffer is better, obviously better than just open space, but does that in the code that the buffer gives them the ability to get a little closer? I believe it does, right?
Well, the buffer doesn't allow necessarily people to get closer. It just requires that planted separation.
Okay. So it will be planted and not just open.
It won't just be
Gotcha.
open, it will be
Perfect.
planted.
All right. Any other comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion on this one. And just because I put it on the piece of paper doesn't mean you have to support anything I'm saying on this. Yes,
I'll make a
Commissioner Barbie.
motion to approve the comment.
This is Commissioner Welton. I'll second that.
Moved by Barbie, seconded by Welton. I'll jump in and Blumenthal.
Yes.
Chirinos,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
McMillan. Elizabeth, I'll come back to you. Welton,
Yes.
Gaston,
Yes.
Barbie,
Yes.
Samuel. I don't think we have her right now. Kelly,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
and Rhodes.
Yes.
And one more attempt, McMillan.
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay, no problem. Virtual meetings are fun. All right, next, stepping into the next one, the next one, required setbacks for tall buildings in certain areas that we had in earlier versions of the TOD. Early on, as we were working on the TOD, I know we had built in some of the original work on that we would step back buildings after, is it 2 stories or is it a feet? I forget. I don't recall off the top of my head, but we would step back buildings, helping to remove some of the canyon effect that can be a bit imposing, especially in our TOD areas. And obviously in our city, almost all of them besides the uptown ones are in areas that are transitioning, to help reduce the imposing canyon elements of as these places are being built out. It was removed, I know, in a previous TOD update. And so I'm curious about if we could look at having that brought back to some extent. And I'm not talking about in our uptown areas. more looking at those TOD developing areas that are getting ready to continue to see a lot of development. Staff?
Can I ask a question? So on this one, is this sort of similar to the one before where you're really talking about those neighborhood areas and wanting some transition?
Nope,
Okay,
this
so is
isn't.
just that step. Okay.
This is the step back from the primary road or the primary street. I forget the main street that the building fronts that we said we'd try and step back from. And not, again, I know someone, as this debate goes forward, at some point, someone will always say, are we designing the buildings? Are we layer caking? Are we all of that? And yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could ask that, are we only talking about the TOD district, or could we get some clarity on which districts as well? Well, maybe depending on how well, as you guys vote, that would be helpful. This was something that was in, I believe, the Regional Activity Center place type that was removed after discussion from council. And so this did, so we thought to be consistent with that, it really didn't make sense to include setbacks in the ordinance in light of that change from council. What I guess what I would say about this is, as we are, and I'm just going to, just for you guys to think about, as we are working on pushing a building down at the back potentially, and some buildings potentially having that same push down or losing developability in the front, I think we are starting to have some impact on viability of development. So that's just something to consider. I wanted to put that out there. I mean, we can write anything in the ordinance, but being cognizant of the impact of starting to lose developability on projects.
Thank you for that.
I was just going to say, my comment on that, Commissioner Gussman, would just be, I think that to a certain extent, the increased planting strip and increased sidewalk size as well does kind of push these buildings back from the street. And so, you know, as long as that's enforced, it's not like you're going to have a building right up on the curb by any means, you know. So that could help remediate some of what you're discussing.
Anyone else comments, question? Douglas?
I would just agree with Laura that, you know, it's a viability issue and there's only so much space within the cube of developable space. I would rather us, you know, give a little bit on the front, like Andrew said, or whatever surrounding streets there are. But I don't think we should be in the architecture design business. And it may, by putting these additional constraints on, we may not be able to get certain kinds of interesting new architecture in this town, which perhaps we are known for our interesting new architecture. Maybe not.
Any comments, any hands up online? Seeing none, we can go to vote as far as that. And again, there's no reason to think just because my name's next to this one that you should think you should be supporting it. And I'm running the meeting. I'll entertain a motion, pardon me, to move this forward or to strike it.
And just for clarification, these motions are to send these points to planning committee.
Correct.
It's not to recommend adoption.
Correct. We're not saying that all you got to do is fix this and then we're all on board or anything. This is just to better inform where planning committee is in their debate and to indicate to staff where are the places that might be the areas we need to see work on sooner.
Thank you. And on that note, Commissioner Blumenthal, I'll make a motion.
In favor.
In favor.
Just to be fair.
Commissioner seconds.
Thank you. Moved by Blumenthal, seconded by Chirinos. And I'll run the Blumenthal.
Yes.
Chirinos.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Welton.
No.
Gaston.
Yes.
Barbie.
Yes.
Samuel. Nope. Kelly.
No.
Harvey.
No.
Russell,
No.
Rhodes,
Yes.
and the vice chair will vote no as well. And we are 7-5, and that also passes. And I realize I did not announce my votes on the first two. I had voted in favor of both the previous ones. So that will also go on to planning committee. Thank you, everyone. It's the debate that's most essential in this process, as we learned during the comp plan. All right, jumping into the last one we have. We shouldn't take this as an indication to discuss all parking issues, but certainly when we wrap this up, maybe we can see if anyone else has any other comments. I was specifically suggesting, and this one honestly was a good idea I heard from a couple of our other commissioners. Parking and attached structures, when you dig into some of the charts, which thank goodness I feel we can finally dig into them and see how it all fits together a little bit. Parking and attached residential structures in tier 1. I noted that we had a relatively high for these increasing density residential spaces that generally are going to be built on more community streets and things like that, not in more developed regional activity centers or community centers and things like that. Had a 1.5 requirement, car minimum parking spot requirement. I think continuing down the path of continuing to reduce the parking requirements, I think that I could see this becoming a paved backyard where we instead could have gotten a little bit of green space, maybe save a tree or two, just because if we put a quad in, you now have 2 more parking spaces you need to have. Some of our lots that I think are very much viable for quads does not work if we start to pave them first and then plant new trees. And just for comparison, mobile home requires 1, which tends to be in a less dense environment, at least in our city. Laura.
So parking is another topic that will be, it's gotten a lot of attention. We'll be discussing also in addition with council on Thursday. A lot of feedback that we have gotten is that our minimums are too high. I think that's consistent with what you have here, and we're looking at how we can adjust those. So look forward to your feedback.
I would be willing to adjust mine to say that general parking might be too high, but wanted to have a specific example for discussion. Do we have any comments, questions, concerns? Will Russell?
Yep. I would agree with your comment. We do have parking minimums that are rather high. And to be honest, every extra space that you require for development is, like you said, you're losing some square footage, revenue producing square footage to essentially free parking. Just changing that half unit to 1 per quads, duplex, and triplexes does have some effect on making those units more affordable as well. So I understand that parking is a touchy subject for most, but I think that this will be a good way to reduce that.
Any other comments? Commissioner Kelly.
Yeah, Phil, to the point you raised, would you be open to modifying your recommendation so that it is more generalized, but this is as a specific example?
Certainly. I think I would be, I'll let whoever wishes to make a motion chime in on this, but I'd be more than willing to modify this to a more general, reconsider the current levels of parking requirement as potentially too big, too much. Or if anyone has better language, I'd be more than happy to entertain that. Any other questions, comments? All right. Well, I will entertain a motion for perhaps a comment that is more along the lines of reconsider the parking minimums in the UDO, specifically those around residential, but also throughout, and lowering them.
Commissioner Walton, I will move what the vice chair just said.
Commissioner Russell, second.
Thank you. Moved by Welton, seconded by Russell. I'll run through the vote. Blumenthal,
Yes.
Chirinos,
Yes.
Ham, John, McMillan, Welton,
Yes.
Gaston,
Yes.
Barbie,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
go back, Ham,
Yes.
thank you, and McMillan. Okay, we have one abstention.
Samuel is yes.
Oh, Samuel, excellent, thank you. And Gusman is yes. That is unanimous, but for one missing, McMillan. So that should also move forward. All right. Now, this is the dangerous part. Does anyone have any other comments they would like to quickly make while we have staff here? We do have a few minutes left. We could also give people time give people back time in their day. Do we have any hands up? If anyone would like to make an additional comment or query pertaining to the UDO specifically in this draft. I just realized that could have been messy.
This is Commissioner Chirinos. I just wanted to thank you and Will for your very thorough and thoughtful comments, because it kind of brings it all together, and truly appreciate you taking the time to do it as such, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I will also credit Commissioner Welton for had a considerable amount of comments about short-term rentals that we tossed out as soon as the UDO changed.
You see how these people do me? I'm saying, really.
They
All
said,
right.
we don't want to have to explain this to Welton, so let's just take it off.
I listen quietly. I sit here and I'm very nice when I give feedback.
All right, excellent. Well, we have completing our agenda as we have a little bit early. Is there anything I have missed, Candace? Excellent. All right, I will ask everyone to note the dates and the topics that we have coming up in the agenda. And failing that, I think we have provided some excellent guidance to staff and the planning committee. And the planning committee will be taking this up. Certainly, we'll be taking this up in another couple of weeks. And
I would just ask staff while we're here, because I asked this question a couple of weeks ago, do we have a landing date for this next draft yet? And is that going to happen before planning committee's meeting? Not likely.
No.
Okay. So we should, I'm just wondering if I should come, crash your meeting or something.
You're always welcome to crash our meeting.
When should we come crash the planning commission meeting or planning committee meeting? But, okay. All right. Well,
May 17th and June 20th.
So we're looking at release the week of May, I believe it's 23rd. And that would be, we get it out 4 weeks before the hearing.
okay.
And
I knew there were some constraints on timing, and the date has been fluid, and I understand if you tell me something, you'll have to kill me. So that's the way it goes.
just for what it's worth, I don't know, make sure that I don't say anything wrong, Candace, but we're looking at a possible planning committee special called meeting at the end of June. for a recommendation from planning committee.
Excellent. Chair Samuel, is there anything you'd like to say before we close?
Yes, I'm glad that Laura mentioned that. Timing for recommendation and agenda for council is, I guess everybody is well aware of the implications there. So we want to make sure that the planning committee, the planning commission is not the holdup in the process. So please make yourselves available in late June for a special called meeting. It would likely be in the evening, much like a normal planning committee meeting would be. Please make space. Please make space. We would need full attendance at that planning committee special called meeting. And Mr. Vice Chair will follow up with that additional information. Thank you, Laura, for those points. I just want to thank everybody for the discussion today. And as we continue to tune in on May 3rd for the special call council meeting, where they discuss UDO.
May 5th.
May 5th, I'm sorry, tomorrow's the 3rd, 5th, Thursday the 5th is the council meeting. Everyone should tune into that. Just as we have mentioned council a time or two in this discussion, I think I heard, we should all be aware of what their particular concerns are as it continues to move to the planning committee. Are we at the end of the agenda, Mr. Vice Chair? I'm sorry.
We are. We have completed the agenda.
Okay. So I keep talking about timing and committee changes might happen prior to what we would normally be doing on July 1st. There's some information that some of you are already aware, some are not. We hope that council and Board of Education and Board of County Commissioners are timely with their replacements for the commissioners that we will lose. Commissioner Ham, we have you for one more month. Commissioner McMillan, we have you for one more month. Commissioner Spencer for one more month. And we hope that those appointments can be made quickly as we kind of move to making our own recommendation on the UDO. Not having any open seats there would be ideal. However, there was one that kind of caught us by surprise. We were not expecting another departure, and I will continue wallowing in my misery as I offer this commissioner the floor to make their own announcement about their departure.
Astrid, I recognize you.
Thank you. Well, this is Commissioner Chirinos, and I tell you, this has been one of a bittersweet, what can I say, resignation. First of all, because this has been one of the most impactful experiences of my life to serve our community in this commission under the leadership of, Chairwoman Samuels and, Vice Chair Blumenthal, Sam, as well before. It's been an experience of a lifetime for me to see how our city has transformed and be a part of the 2040 plan. And I never thought in my wildest dreams that it would happen at that time. And to learn from each of you, you all have been, you're such a well of knowledge and experience and understanding and commitment to the growth of a city and the role that Charlotte has. So I am I intend to resign because of a very happy event in my life that some of you have already known, and be moving from Charlotte to expensive city. So I will all I have to say is that I thank you from the bottom of my heart from your servant leadership, your commitment. It has been an honor and a privilege to understand better and serve this community and provide any contributions or skills that I have. And I'm hoping that, this is not a goodbye. I'm going to be coming back every so often and crash the meetings, maybe if Chairwoman Samuels would allow me at some point. But thank you for your service to you all are amazing role models, and I'm truly humbled to have been a part of this group. So I don't want to say more because I'm probably going to start crying. So thank you to each of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chirinos. We have some comments in the chat, and if those who have made comments or wish to make comments, please unmute yourselves and pour out the love.
This is Commissioner Barbie. I want to make a couple of comments about Commissioner Chirinos. I've known Astrid for a really long time, and since I came back to the city in 2017, and her passion for serving our community is unmatched. And when I heard that she was interested in the Planning Commission, I was even more elated because it was an opportunity for us to serve again and to see her advocate on for community voices that are sometimes not at the table. And you've done that consistently, Astrid. I would like to make a plea for you not to go, but I've already made that plea before and it did not work, but I know that you're moving for the happiest reason ever. And I am so excited for you and I wish you all the best. And it is not goodbye, but see you soon. And we will all be watching your amazing journey and waiting for your book to come out about this amazing love story that you have. So thank you, Astrid, for the work that you've done.
Thank you, Erin. I'm truly humbled. Thank you. And I want to say, I would never move. I mean, I fell in love with North Carolina 42 years ago, and I would never move from here unless it was a force bigger than actually the same force that the love that I had for North Carolina. Now it's a love that is taking me out of this state and the city. So, it's I would never forget. None of you, I mean, not only your leadership, but the staff has been incredible. I've learned so much from them too, and it's an experience of a lifetime. So thank you, Erin, for also, being my guide too, as I was at the Simmons YMCA, and you were my chair, and I learned so much from you. So personally, I appreciate it.
And Astrid, I just want to say, he's awesome. I get now why you're leaving. Totally makes sense. And even he acknowledged he would also help make sure that you were available to us, at least on occasion. Though we might have to go to Miami, I understand. But it has been an honor serving with you. And you have shown me a lot about the parts of East Charlotte that I thought I knew better. You helped me know even better yet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil. And it was great to do the journey with you around our city. You were an amazing navigator, helping me get acquainted to the commission and to the amazing, the tangled web that it is to be in this service. I admire every one of you because you either have businesses or you serve in all organizations, and you have and the amount of time that it takes, now we know, and now I know, and it's it truly is a servant leadership that is in this, and I'm so thrilled of the talent that is in this commission right now. It was a dream come true now to see this group. I'm sad to be able to leave it because I know it's going to transform Charlotte in so many different ways that I wanted to be a part of it, but hopefully I contributed in the front end, and then the outcomes are going to be incredible. I can't wait to hear about Charlotte moving in all kinds of heights, and not only in terms of equity and a framework for our community and the 21st century, but also in terms of prosperity for all.
Ashes, Will Russell, definitely sad to see you go. You are without a doubt irreplaceable. And East Charlotte is definitely losing a wonderful advocate and mentor. And I know that you're going to make your next home just as great as you left Charlotte. So thank you again and congratulations.
Thank you. And it was also an honor. And learned so much from you when we were in the initial part of the UDO several years ago. I was just thinking like, what, 3 years, 4 years ago? And your passion as well. It was a great guide for me. And so I'm so glad that you're now in the commission. This commission is in great hands in every possible way. To me, is what Charlotte needed. And I thank you, each one of you. I'm just, hopefully, who knows, you might want to do a road trip to Miami, and we'll do a little planning down there and just take a look at some of the opportunities and changes that could be applied here. I'm in anticipation for what I will learn and maybe share in the future. We'll have our growth issues, and they certainly have theirs, but with many different accents. But we all have an accent anyway.
I'll jump in really quick. This is Allison. Astrid, on behalf of the department, thank you so much for your service. I've always appreciated your energy and your feedback, and certainly thank you too for your help with the UDO sessions and having that space. And so I wish you all the best in your journey. It sounds like it's an exciting one ahead, but just wanted to say thank you for all you've done for us. So appreciate it and good luck.
No, Allison, thank you. And it was, it was great to start with Taiwo, and I think that he has left the commission in great hands with you, with the staff that is so cohesive, and it's great to see how this is going to evolve and how this plan is going to make Charlotte one of the best cities in the United States. So I thank you again for the understanding and the willingness to listen. Many times when sometimes we were in different sides of the table, but we always found common ground, and I'm just very grateful and humble to being able to be a part of it.
Hey, this is Kevin with the planning staff, and I want to piggyback a little bit on what Allison had to say. Astrid, or Commissioner Trinos, you've been one of the most hands-on commissioners that I think I've seen on the Planning Commission, and I very much appreciate that. And you proved to be an invaluable resource as we were rolling out with the UDO, especially after the launch of the first draft, and being a partner to really avail the space and the YMCAs as venues. It was really, you cannot put to words how much of value that was to be your partner in that effort to get the word out to the community. So I very much appreciate everything that you've done for the staff, for the commission. Well done. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. It was truly a pleasure, and working with the whole team, it was great. You were all very flexible and willing, and everybody was excited at the Y to be a part of this process, to help grow and learn and teach. Like I always say, we're a community of learners with a teachable spirit, and we really were so thankful of that opportunity to be able to provide our space that way. So it's a mutual appreciation. It was mutual growth for our teams, also for our staff. They were able to learn more about the UDOs and the growth, which they have kind of sometimes isolated. People don't realize that was happening. And thank you for allowing us to be a host. Well, I guess I'll say welcome to Miami. Bienvenidos a Miami. Sometime, anytime. Mi casa es su casa.
Taking it back to 1998, Astrid. I love that song.
Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful comments. And there will be, Astrid, you will be missed in this, on this body and in this city greatly. Kiva, did you have anything else?
I missed all.
All right. I will entertain a motion to keep Astrid here in the city. No, I'm kidding. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Barbie, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second, Blumenthal.
Moved by Barbie, seconded by Blumenthal. I don't see anyone who's voting against, so I am going to, and if you do wish to vote against, please let me know right now. Very good. I call this meeting